Hello, blended math families. I am Paul Marlette. I'm one of the math teachers here at Windsor Park, and I have been trying to find a time when I could get all of you together to do a parent meeting, but with the 2 days and the 4 classes, it's just not coming together, so I thought I'd shoot this quick video. The reason I like to have this opportunity to talk to all of my math families is to talk about the big differences between our program and what you may have experienced at a regular 5-day-a-week school. So the first thing is our program is condensed. So I have approximately 81 days with your children to get them through 180 days of curriculum. So as a result, my focus is primarily to build strategies and thought patterns and competencies to give them these building blocks. So by the time they hit grade 9, they're ready to enter grade 10. I have taught grade 1 to grade 11 math in the system, so I have a pretty good idea of what that scope and sequencing of skills is. So as a result, I do use a lot of accelerated learning philosophies. I started in this program when we were part of the learning innovation team, and our job was to take the research and to push it forward. So our classes look differently than they would normally. So one of the big things that we're doing is that I'm exposing these students to a much bigger picture of math than what is the narrow scope of their grade. Okay, so especially in the grade 6 classes, there's a big jump, and that's by design. In order for us to prepare students for that jump to grade 10, we need to get their thinking quite a bit more mature as quick as we can. Now, the thing is that I may be showing them the big picture up to grade 7 or grade 8. Some of my grade 9s are already seeing some of the grade 10 curriculum, but I'm only going to be marking them and grading them on their grade-specific skill. So where I don't really stay to the grade level curriculum, when it comes to assessment and having them do independent work and projects like that, that is more along the lines of their grade level. Okay, one of the other big things that we started doing a couple of years ago was looking at the research on taking risk. And when I say risk, I mean like true risk. So risk is the only way that we learn. We know that. Okay, the research is really clear on that. So when I'm working with kids in class as a group, I'm actually striving for them to fail in class 20 to 40% of the time. So if a student comes in, is getting 100% on everything I'm doing on the board, that's not serving them. So in order to really build this mathematical thinking mindset, I actually really encourage kids to either say, hey, this is too easy, give me something else, or I'm getting all of these wrong, can you help me out? And as you can imagine, junior high kids, that is a struggle for some of them. They don't like to put their hand up. So I am in and amongst these students every day. Sometimes it takes me a couple of days to reach a student though. One of my other big philosophies is that I'm not going to suggest your child come in for extra help. So one of the things I do is I'm here every day at 9 o'clock, 9 till 9:25 is my one-to-one tutorial. But I'm not going to go up to your kid and say, hey, I need you to come in for extra help. That has to come from the child. And the reason being is that if I tell that student that they need to come and see me, what they take it as at this age is that they're dumb, they don't get it, and they're not good enough. So if at home your child is struggling, if you're struggling, this is a unit you haven't done since you were in school, take all the pressure off. We don't want any stress in math because it's the only subject that triggers fight or flight. So any stress we want to back off. Let them know they can come in early and work with me one-on-one. That's what I do. That's one of the biggest ways that I can really accelerate student learning. And usually students new to the program, it's going to take them at least 4 or 5 months before they're like, yeah, I need help. But as soon as they do that, I've got them, and we can really increase that progress. So as I said, it's your student, if they're really strong, they're going to be pushed beyond the grade level, but I'll only mark them at that grade level. The blended program, over the course of the last 5 years, I've been working on some big frameworks. So I actually started teaching teachers' conventions sessions across Alberta 3 years ago. So I'm now taking the stuff I'm learning at Windsor Park to anywhere from 200 to 600 teachers a year across the province, because what I'm finding is important, and it changes how we look at math. So the two main frameworks that I work with are the top one, which is actually I borrowed from Mr. Alex's brilliant social study teaching, which is I see, I think, I wonder. So every problem we do, that's the very first thing we do. I teach students to look at what they're doing, think about what they know, and wonder how they might solve it. And it seems really simplistic, but it actually takes me months and months and months before I can slow students down. So I don't use textbooks. You've probably noticed that the homework sometimes is not a lot. I don't send a lot home, but the homework I am sending home is very targeted. So it's designed to practice specific skills and thought patterns. I really encourage people to do the homework. While I'm talking about homework, it's not mandatory. If a student can do it and they're confident in it by doing half of it, that's fine. If they're like, no, I know this, I'm only going to do one, that's fine. The difference is that when they come to class, every day we do a check-in. So they all made these little journals. This is one from last year. This has all of their work that we do in class. And as you can see, we do a lot of work in these. So the homework is practice. It's how you hone the skills. That's why Michael Jordan was such an amazing basketball player, because he did three free throws for hours longer than anyone else in the entire league. So the homework is where they hone their skill. They practice it. They think through it. When they come to class, if they can do the work in their check-in, I'm happy. If they're struggling, my first question to that student is, did you do the homework? Did you watch the videos? It's amazing how often they don't. So I see, I think, I wonder. This is the overarching framework that I use, and it's taken me 2 or 3 years to really kind of perfect this, and I'm still working on it, so it's not perfect yet. The other one is this. Every unit I do, we do a full background. So if we're doing, say, adding fractions is the grade 6 curriculum, I'm going to show them everything we can do with fractions, because we're building these neural networks in the brain. And if there's no concept of the bigger picture, the brain doesn't know where to file them. So when I'm doing these big picture days, I'll spend a day teaching the entire unit or exposing them to the unit, and then we dial into the specific skills that they need to work on. The next thing is vocabulary. Students are going to get a vocabulary list pretty soon. The crazy thing with vocabulary is if a student doesn't know a piece of vocabulary, we lose them from anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Okay, so if I use the word, what's a good word that I could pull out? The perpendicular bisector. So if I'm teaching and I say, okay, we have a perpendicular bisector of the chord, and a student doesn't know that term perpendicular bisector, I could lose them from like anywhere from, I said 5, it's 2 to 15 minutes. So for 2 to 5 minutes, that kid is just going to sit there going, wow, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to stop listening. So I do stress vocabulary quite a bit. We will start to do vocabulary quizzes probably by the end of the month. Okay, so keep your eye open for that. The last one is imagination. What we know about math is that math is not a black and white subject. Okay, that's why right now I'm not stressing correct answers for those first 3 to 4 weeks, because I really need kids and students to take the risk to start the work. It's the biggest hang-up. Most kids who come in and say, I'm bad at math, it's just because no one's showed them in a way that made sense to them. So that's why our program is built the way it is. I have some notes just off to the side. So the other thing is this notion of thinking through math. So when a student says, I don't get it, I can't do anything, my very first work with those students is to say, well, you understand something because you can identify what you see. You can identify what you don't know. So the goal here is to actually look at specific questions. I see that I'm multiplying. I don't understand how to use the negative. And when we shift kids' mindset and their ability to think using questions, okay, this over COVID, students' ability to ask questions has plummeted. So I've actually changed my whole teaching pedagogy for this year, started last year, to try and build this kind of resiliency back into students. It's heavy work, but this idea that we don't just give up, we actually ask specific questions, that's my in to really go into the deeper levels of math. Okay, so for this year, my focus, because I asked the students to take risk, my focus is to actually really build resiliency, acceptance of all kinds of things, and persistence. Those are the three main words that I'm using this year to drive my students forward. By the way, if you have any questions on this, I know we're not live, please feel free to send me an email and we can either chat or touch base that way as well. So I've talked about the math journals. The class outline is in D2l under the introduction. If you haven't seen that, please go in there with your child. With D2l, I'm going to show you my D2l shell here in just a moment. With D2l, I encourage every parent to get in there at least once a week with your kids. But go to the introduction. There is a list of required supplies. I'd love students to have a scientific calculator. If there's one that has the fraction button, it's even better. Okay, that one's really good. They need a square and square root and a cube root, that kind of stuff. If you want a recommendation, again, just kind of drop me a note and I'll send one to you. You can get them at Staples for under 10 bucks. Really good ones like 20 bucks. So they can use that all the way through grade 10 as well. D2l and assessments. So I'm just going to switch over right now. So let me do like this. Perfect. So I'm actually in my son's shell right now because I see different things. So when you get to my D2l shell, the grade 8, 9s are into the mountains. The grade 6, 7s are something about surfing this year. My D2l shell is completely to support the work I teach in class. It is not like a traditional online course. Completely different things. So in an online course, students are going through content, doing everything in there. If you do everything in content, that student is going to explode. So the way I use this, number one, I will update these due dates, task dates from time to time. So for example, we just finished our integer review and our exponent notes. Now we're actually into exponent laws. Everything students need will show up in the announcements section. Everything. If it's not in the announcements, I'm not asking kids to do it. So I spend a lot of time building out these links. So this is one I just posted. A lot of my grade 8, 9s are struggling with add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So I've posted a whole resource here that has videos, gives them the opportunity to do some work at home. But remember, if they're struggling and you don't know how to help them, please encourage them to come in at 9 o'clock. Say, hey, you're struggling. I know Mr. Paul's there to help you out. When a student takes the initiative to come in, their learning will actually go at like 200 to 400 times faster. If I tell a student to come in, their learning actually decreases. So just keep those things in mind. You'll also notice in here that I have like week 5A, week 5B. I do have different groups this year. So I have a grade 8 class, a grade 9 class on Monday, Wednesday, on Monday, Tuesday, on Wednesday, Thursday, they're combined. So students have to read. I'm not posting a lot here. So this is the work for the grade 9s. This is the work for the grade 8s. Now, if you got a grade 8 who's like, I'm bored with the grade 8 stuff, of course they can do the grade 9. And if I've got a grade 9 kid who says, you know what, I didn't get this in grade 8, of course they can do the grade 8 stuff. I'm looking for students to work about an hour, hour and a half every week. So if they're blasting through it and they need extra help, support, enrichment, again, I'm the one to send them to for that. So when you click on these, it's going to open up different resources. Sometimes it's going to be a worksheet. You can also notice in here that I have quite a few video supports. Okay, it's taken me 10 years. Sometimes they're not me, but I have all these things built out. Now, the other thing is that you can actually see my activity feed through your My CBE. So I only post things in here that are kind of pertinent, things that I think parents need to see. So this same post about algorithms is posted in there as well. I don't put everything that I post in D2l in the activity feed because I don't want to fill up your inbox. All right, but as I said, I would really encourage everyone to get into D2L with their students every single week on all their subjects if they're taking more than just math. Other things in here. If a student says, well, I want more practice in integers, this is where they can go into the content. So right now, integers. So if I go into number 3, integers, I've got adding and subtracting integers, multiplying and dividing integers, order of ops with integers, word problems. So I have a lot of work built out here. I don't necessarily think it's required. If students know the rules and can do it repeatedly, I'm happy with that. Yeah, I don't need them to keep on repping and repping and repping if they consistently show they know them. But if they want practice, that's why you could use the content. The discussion area, this is a private discussion area only. So you'll see Oakley Marlette here. If he clicks on this, it's going to open up a feed where it shows all his correspondence with his teacher. You can start a new thread. You, as a parent, you can go in here with your child and say, hey, Mr. Paul, can we have a meeting? We're struggling with this certain thing. Something new this year is if you go into the grades, you are going to see nothing. The reason being is that CBE has required teachers to now post our summative and formative and in-class assessments into PowerSchool, so you can see them through my CBE. So I will not be using the grades section in this. That will be accessed by both students and parents through the PowerSchool app. All right. Assignments, and again, I don't want students to just wander through these. If I'm posting an assignment, it will be linked in the announcements. Same thing with quizzes, same thing with assessments. So the one place you have to go for my D2L is the announcements. That's pretty much it. I keep it really simple. In terms of when students hit a wall at home, I encourage them, number one, to reach out in private discussions. I can send videos just like this, back and forth, me working on a board. I'll explain specific stuff, or I'll send them resources. I think the biggest thing that I want to tell parents who are new to the program is that math is one of those subjects that kids either love it, or they're like meh, or they hate it. So if your child is feeling anxiety, isn't doing very well, we need to take the pressure off. That's why I joke around a lot here. Okay, we know that if students are laughing in math or smiling in math and feel safe in math to take risks, then they'll progress. If they don't, they shut down and stop working. So if there's any issues that are happening at home, please drop me an email. Okay, it's PB as in boy, Marlette, M-A-R-L-E-T-T, at cbe.ab.ca. Other than that, that's kind of me in a nutshell. If I really do, oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention, is that I hold students to an incredibly high level of notation. And I know some students struggle with their writing, and it doesn't have to be neat, but I still hold them to a really high level of notation. Like here's an example of a student from last year. Okay, so I'm actually holding them to high school level notation because when I taught grade 10, what I noticed that students going into high school who didn't know how to do it, it took them a long time to figure it out. So I do have high expectations, but I also work with kids where they're at. My grade 8-9 classes usually have an age, or not an age, but a skill level from about grade 5 to grade 11. Okay, and that's in one class. In different units, it moves between. Yeah, so that's who I am, that's where things are, and if I can ever be of support, if you want to come in and learn what we're doing about algebra, please let me know. Come in, we'll spend 20 minutes, I'll teach you how I teach. And if you know a different way, if you have experience in math or work in math or engineering, please tell your kids that there's more than one way. I preach that constantly. So if they have an opportunity to learn a different way, your brain probably works closer to theirs than mine, right? So don't ever hesitate to show them different ways to do things. I'm never going to hold kids to that one specific way of doing the work. I'm really big into finding new ways, and I learn new things from students every year that I integrate into my teaching. So I look forward to being in touch. As I said, if you have questions, please either send me an email or drop in after school. I've got whiteboards, I got pens, we can talk as much as we need. And I look forward to working with you and your children for the rest of the year. So have a fabulous afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.